Hello everyone. Welcome to the Everyfan channel where you may have guessed it. We talk about every fandom. I'm just going to talk about the things I like, the things I dislike, and yell into the void and find out if it's listening. In this series specifically, I'm comparing the Percy Jackson TV series and the Percy Jackson movie and finding out which one is more accurate to the books, which I know is controversial, but there are some things that I actually think the movie might have done better than the books, and I kind of want to see if anyone else agrees. If you can't guess, the Percy Jackson series is very near and dear to my heart. You can see the absolute beating this book has gotten throughout the years. It was one of my very first like big kid series growing up. So I was absolutely obsessed with it, and it was a very formative experience. So I am very protective over it. And we all know that the movie was shit. I don't think anyone could deny that. But I think we have a problem as a fan base where we are just so desperate for content and material. We don't always look for quality. And this is not to say that the TV show is bad, because in comparison to what we have received in the past, this TV show was phenomenal. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that can't be improved, and especially as they're moving into production for season 2, I think it is important to have those conversations and to just remind ourselves as fans that the reason why they're able to produce a TV series is because of the love, time, effort, and money that we've given to this series. So we should not just accept anything. We should make sure that we are loyal to the reason why we fell in love with this series in the first place. So comparing these two forms of media is obviously difficult. It is, first of all, the movie pretty much took the book, shit on it, and then lit it on fire, and then tossed it out a window. There are very few scenes that are actually anything related to the book whatsoever. The beginning of the movie is probably as close as it gets, and then it goes downhill from there. So it's very difficult to compare the movie to the TV show, or even the movie to the book. And the TV show obviously has a longer duration, so it's able to go into more detail and character depth. So there is only so many scenes that I can actually compare each other to. So I can't do a complete breakdown of things. If you do want to see that, you can let me know. But for right now, let's get started. Of course, there are already some pretty glaring differences between the two of these. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. One of these actually has children. The other one has young adults. I think Logan Lerman was 17 when he started the Percy Jackson's movie series, and then he was like 21 in the second one, so definitely not book accurate in terms of age. These characters, yeah, we can get that out of the way. And of course, we know at the baseline, the TV show is more accurate of an adaptation. So that, let's push that aside and see what aspects specifically the movie got a little bit better than the TV show. The first item is the school. This is one of the opening scenes for both the TV show and the movie, Yancy Academy. And this is where Percy goes to school. And in the books, it is a private school. And we find out Percy has this history of getting kicked out pretty frequently. He has both dyslexia and ADHD, and along with being a demigod and attracting all sorts of trouble, he has found himself expelled and never being in a school for more than a year. So Yancy Academy supposedly is meant for people with mental health issues and people who struggle in academics, but Percy is singled out. He doesn't have a lot of friends and he still struggles with academics. It really doesn't seem like the teachers have any knowledge of dealing with mental health disorders. So it is not a good school. He is a victim of bullying, and he and Grover bond. They become best friends during his time at Yancy. And this is kind of how the series starts. In the movie, they quickly show his dyslexia and ADHD, which I appreciate. They make sure to tell us pretty quickly that this is a problem that Percy struggles with. It is not a private school anymore. It is a public school in New York City, and Percy lives with his mother, which is a very key difference from what happens in the books. And Percy and Grover are supposed to be outcasts, but watching the movie, it doesn't really seem like it. It just seems like they are just pretty normal teenagers just going through it. The whole school for troubled teens, it just seems like they go to a school where a lot of fights happen. They walk through the hallway, we see some fights happening in the background. Not a lot happening there. Not very book accurate. The TV show, on the other hand, we actually get to spend a lot more time at Yancy Academy than we do with the movie. And we also get to see his mental health issues fairly quickly. We see that he struggles with school, and we see him and Grover actually being bullied, which I think is really important. And we see them bond through that, and we get glimpses of their personalities here, and we get more of a background with Percy's struggles in the academic field. It's awesome. It's expected as well because, again, we have a lot more time with the TV show. But my favorite part that involves Yancy Academy is that we actually get to see Nancy Bobofit, which is awesome. She is the key instigator of the fights and the key reason why Percy's cover ends up getting blown. So it's awesome getting to see her in Yancy Academy. In this category, TV show obviously wins. Next category is the museum scene. So in the books, the museum scene is actually fairly important foreshadowing because it gives us the story of Kronos eating his children, and Brunner, I don't know, you can tell I mainly know this from reading the books because I don't know how to pronounce. For the longest time, I did not know how to pronounce a good chunk of these names because I was like, is it Brunner? Is it Bruner? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say Brunner. I think that's how they pronounce it in the movie. I might be wrong. But here in the books, we get to see the relationship Percy has with Brunner. And obviously we come to find out later this is Chiron. We see that he loves this class. This is how he learns about Greek mythology. This is what keeps him engaged in school. This is the only class he really cares about. He loves being a student in Brunner's class, and we get to see this mentor-mentee relationship that will later develop even more in the series, which is awesome. But we see this basis of trust and this basis of a relationship happening. It's great. In the movie, they are in the museum. We do get to see the story of Kronos, which, once again, very important foreshadowing for the big villain of this book. But we also see that Percy doesn't really have any understanding of Greek mythology, and he is not trying to engage with the class. He's not paying attention, which is unlike Percy. I feel like they heard that Percy had problems in academics when they were talking about the book, and they automatically blamed Percy for it, when that's literally the whole problem they are addressing in the book, is the fact that no, he just has never been in a school that has properly helped him out or has tried to listen to him. So the movie, that's what's happening there. In the TV show, the museum scene doesn't give us this foreshadowing at all. Instead, we get a background for why Percy's name is Percy, short for Perseus. And so it is a it's really difficult to watch this scene. I appreciate the TV show trying to show more of Percy and Sally's relationship, but it is so cringy. I cannot. Who talks like that? That is a huge issue with this show. And don't get me wrong, the movie isn't great with this either, but the TV show's dialogue, especially in the beginning episodes, is so unnatural. Nobody talks like this. Seeing, and the whole "hold fast, Perseus" line feels more like a ploy for merchandise than it does to actually propel the plot. I don't know if maybe it was only me who felt this way. It easily could have been. I was someone who grew up being very protective of Sally and Percy's relationship because they have gone through hell and back together and their bond is so strong. And it just, the TV show made it into this really weird dynamic. It felt so odd watching this scene. It was just so weird. And then it also kind of ruins the point of Brunner being a Greek mythology teacher for Percy, because that was the basis of how Percy got a lot of his knowledge and the relationship that was built between them. And instead we find out, oh yeah, no, Sally has been telling Percy this stuff all his life. All his life. No biggie. And of course, hearing the story of why Sally chose the name for Perseus is awesome. Perseus is one of the few Greek heroes that gets a happy ending, and that's why she chose the name. She wants a happy ending for her son. It's beautiful. It's very sweet. I think it could have been something that was pushed to just kind of a later dialogue, and we really should have gotten the important foreshadowing for Kronos scene instead of a very cringy dialogue. Also, the whole maybe heroes aren't heroes and monsters aren't monsters dialogue blew my mind, and not in a good way, because that is such an important part of Percy's personal journey throughout all of this. He learns that the gods aren't flawless beings and that there's a lot of fundamental issues with the way the gods treat their children and the way this whole system is set up. And it builds up to this really impactful and important scene at the end of the series. It now being a childhood lesson that's ingrained in his mind weakens the impact of that. And it really takes away from his personal journey. And I see that a lot happening already with the series, where a lot of the things that Percy is supposed to find out on his own show that he is a hero, that he is a leader, that he can figure out things, has been stripped away almost immediately. And it really, really sucks to see that, because it was so freaking cool when it happened in a more natural way instead of all of this exposition dumping that keeps happening. And I know a lot of people have already talked about the pacing problems with the show. So we all know that there is a pacing problem with the show, but by God, please may this not be a problem in season 2, because those first couple episodes were rough. Absolutely rough watching this. I think it is so important to remember that Percy is not stupid. Stop treating him like he is stupid. Book Percy, sure, he struggled with academics, but that's because of his mental health disorders. He is not stupid. He is quick on his feet. He is brilliant. He's able to connect the dots really fast. He's able to come up with some pretty amazing game plans that even the daughter of Athena is impressed by. He also, like, builds these connections off of his background in Greek mythology. Let us see that happen. If you were building it up where Sally has taught him all of this stuff, stop letting characters just explain everything to him right away. Let us see him figuring things out, please. Also, in this museum scene, going back to topic, in this museum scene, Brunner in the movie feels a lot more casual. Don't get me wrong, both versions of Brunner are not subtle. They're giving a lot of heavy, I would love to say foreshadowing, but we all know why we're here. They're giving a lot of very not subtle hints about what Percy's destiny is and who he is. But the movie Brunner feels a little bit more natural in dialogue than TV show Brunner. If I was a middle schooler and TV show Brunner was talking to me like that, I would be so weirded out. Like, I would not want to be alone in a room with him. What the hell is he talking about? Of course it makes sense later on, and of course we know what it's building up to, but I wish we got to see more of a natural relationship. And I don't really want to hear the concept of, oh, well, he's like this ancient deity. Of course he's not going to understand, our, I don't know, modern English. He is one of the camp directors. No, he is. Wait, is he, or is Dionysus? I know he's like, okay. He is one of the leaders of a camp that for quite a few years at this point has been dealing with teenagers. Yes, he would be caught up with a modern way of speaking. Don't have him talk like a weirdo. Especially when you're talking to children. Make it understandable. Make it believable. Don't make it be like where, if we all know, if we were children, we would not understand what the hell is going on because their way of explaining things is so unnecessarily sophisticated and extra. Because of this, I do think the movie museum scene wins out over the TV show one. TV show one was just trying to do too much, and it just wasn't paying off. Next category is Dodds. So Dodds is a complicated character in terms of comparison. So I split it up into 3 parts. The first one is the character design, so Mrs. Dodds as a teacher. Then it's the monster design, and then it's the actual attack that occurs. So as for the teacher design, the movie wasn't bad. It wasn't. They did a good job of making this teacher look intimidating and not like someone you want to have call you off to the side. They did a good job of creating that atmosphere of weirdness with her. But there was no denying that the TV show costume design is just leagues better. It is so book accurate. I love the leather jacket. I love the hairdo. I love the way that she holds herself. It is awesome. She is intimidating. TV show wins for sure. But then there's the monster design. In the movie, she is a monstrous creature. Don't get me wrong, CGI is outdated. But she is a monstrous creature. She looks like she is a monster from hell. It's done well. She looks like a fury. She's got the fangs and the wings, and she's terrifying. Book Monster Dodds is scary. TV show Monster Dodds is a plucked chicken. I cannot express the laughter that bubbled out of me when she began her walk towards Percy, it was laughter of disbelief. It was why does she look like that? I can't. She looks crazy. The leather jacket melting into the bat wings was such a cool effect, but why did they make the rest of her look like this? She looked more like the way a harpy is described in the books than she looked like a fury. With Ella in the Heroes of Olympus series, I am like, that is essentially how Ella is described, except, of course, instead of bat wings, it's wings with feathers. But this Dodds had like feathers, or couldn't tell if it was feathers or scales, but it looked like feathers, and she therefore looked like a harpy. And it was hilarious, and not necessarily in a good way. It was not intimidating. It was pretty funny. I don't know why her face had to be there. It took away from it. I think if her face was a monster as well, then I would have been okay with it. But having her face be a human woman's face, and then having the like feathers and everything, it looked like a harpy. So for this category, the movie wins. As for the category of the Dodds attack, of Dodds transforming into a fury and attacking Percy, this is a complicated category again. So, set up, right? In the books, Miss Dodds is one of Hades' top lieutenants of the underworld. And the reason why she infiltrates the school, she has spent months at Yancy Academy as Percy's math teacher. She encouraged the real math teacher to go take an unplanned vacation, and she has been in that role since then. She has spent months paying attention to Percy to find out if he is a demigod, and when she gets that confirmation, when Percy pushes Nancy into the fountain, that's the confirmation she needs. She brings Percy to an isolated location, and she then tries to interrogate him in her human form, and when that doesn't work, she transforms into a monster to try to forcibly get the information out of him. We later come to find out that Hades does not care about the lightning bolt. He cares about his Helm of Darkness, which has also gone missing. And his assumption is that the son of Poseidon has stolen both the Master Bolt and the Helm, and will be giving it to Poseidon, so that way there could be another tussle of power. The reason why Dodds is supposed to be so discreet is because Hades has not informed anyone, any of the other gods, that his helm is missing. There is a reason, a necessary reason for discretion in the books. So, also in the books, in the fight scene, Dodds has transformed into the monster. She attacks Percy. Brunner runs in, tosses Percy the pen. Pen turns into a sword. And Percy, this is the first time we also see the innate fighting abilities and fighting reflexes that Percy has. Because of his ADHD in the books, that is what keeps him alive in battle. He's able to be fast on his feet and have these incredible fighting abilities that he never knew of until this fight happens. It's awesome. It's great. And Percy does kill Dodds. However, so in the movie, Dodds does isolate Percy. She calls him over. She tries to interrogate him. It's intimidating, kind of. And then she attacks him. Brunner and Grover burst in, and for some reason, that is enough to scare off a demon from hell. So she leaves, and she leaves Percy alone, and Percy lives to fight another day. It's, Percy doesn't fight, really. He doesn't kill Dodds. Not a lot is happening. The only book accurate thing is that Dodds keeps it isolated. Hell, in the movie, Hades is kind of the bad guy here. So he, there's no helm that has been stolen. Hades does also want the Master Bolt for himself, and that's why Dodds is after him. So really the only book accurate thing is the fact that the fight happened in an isolated location and Dodds attacked him. In the TV show, Percy pushes Nancy into the fountain, and Dodds is like, this is the confirmation I need. Then she starts telepathically communicating with Percy, asking for the location of the items, and then she transforms in public. And in the book, the movie series, and the TV show, there is the concept of the mist, and the mist hides the monster world, the Greek world, from the human world, so humans can't really comprehend what they're seeing. They would still see something attacking Percy. Why would you do this in public too? Also, Dodds at least like had some kind of idea about Brunner and Grover, like knew something was there, just like they send something off about Dodds. Monsters can kind of detect each other. They may not always know because the mist impacts like everything, but it's still like, why would you attack in public if the whole point is to find the helm discreetly? What is the plan here? So because of this attack, also, so Percy does kill Dodds in this scene, but he doesn't do shit. That sword activates all on its own. Dodds lands on top of him, and the sword is just like, and then kills her, and she turns into dust, which is a nice touch. I am glad that the monsters turned into dust in the TV show. But this was supposed to be the first scene we get to see a glimpse of Percy's fighting abilities, and the sword just does it for him. What is happening? Another segment of Percy doesn't do anything, and literally everything does it for him. Because of this, because of just like how weird both of these scenes are from the movie and the TV show, I'm going to call it a draw. And I know for some people, Dodds attacking Percy in public is not a big deal, but for me, it was a really important tactical decision that she was doing it discreetly, because it made so much more sense later in the book when we come to find out that what Hades was looking for wasn't the bolt, it was the helm. Then it was like, oh, that's why she just didn't attack him right away. It's because she was looking for the helm, and she wanted to get it discreetly and didn't want everyone else to know that it was missing. This makes sense. And then it makes sense in the bus scene later that her and her two other sisters attack in public, because at this point she's been killed once. She's extremely frustrated, and this acts as almost like confirmation that Percy has the helm, and so she's going all in. It made sense. It lined up. So here it's ending in a draw, and not because they're both book accurate, it's because they're both book inaccurate. The next category is Gabe Ugliano. Ugliano? I always said Ugliano in my head. So in the books, Gabe is an asshole. We figured that out real quick. He treats Percy like shit. He essentially steals the kid's money, gambles everything all the way, treats Sally pretty awfully. Later, we also come to find out that Gabe has been physically abusive towards Sally. And it's a really deep display of inner strength that Sally has been putting up with Gabe all of these years to protect the only family she has left and to protect Percy. The reason for this is Gabe's smell is so bad that it literally covers up the stench of demigod. Demigods, we find out that the stronger a demigod is, the more powerful their scent is, and that's a way that monsters track them, along with another wide myriad of ways. But Gabe smells so goddamn bad that it covers it up. And that's why Sally puts up with him. That's why she puts up with his abuse, because she does it to protect Percy. And it is a beautiful display of motherhood. And this doesn't mean that Sally is weak, but she does everything in her power to make sure that Gabe doesn't leave. But that doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean that she's not strong. She has displays of inner strength. For example, the reason why Percy loves to eat blue food so much is because Gabe and Sally had a fight where Gabe said that there was no such thing as blue food, and Sally goes out of her way to only eat blue food to prove to Gabe that yes, it does exist. Little acts of rebellion like that really showed Sally's strength, and that's why Percy loves to eat blue food. There's also and then of course when Gabe eventually and rightfully gets killed with the head of Medusa by Sally, thanks to Percy, we get to see even more of Sally's strength. And Sally has never not been a strong character. In the movie, Gabe for sure is an asshole. The costume design is great. He looks like a sleazeball. They did a great job. We also can tell that it demeans Sally quite a bit. We don't know if he is physically abusive, but it is definitely implied that this is not a happy household. And don't get me wrong, the movie does a lot of things bad, but I really like the touch that you don't have to be explicit with the fact that he is abusive to know something's wrong. He physically intimidates Percy. He kind of like pulls at his head, his hair to like hold him back. There's a lot of nice touches. He demeans Sally. He physically touches her in ways that make her and Percy uncomfortable. He crosses physical boundaries. He doesn't call her by her name. He calls her woman. There are a lot of nice touches that show that he is not a good man. And you don't really feel bad when the end credits show that he was turned into stone. In the TV show, this man does not deserve to die. Don't get me wrong. He is an asshole. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He for sure is an asshole. But he is... So, from Gabe's perspective, Percy has just been expelled. And he has been expelled. He doesn't know the reason why. He just knows that he's expelled and he's being sent home early. Gabe welcomes Percy when he comes back. Don't get me wrong, it's not a nice welcome. He's definitely an asshole in the show, but he doesn't seem to be an abusive asshole. If they're trying to make him abusive, they're not doing a good job of clearly showing that. It's just a lot of like verbal abuse, if anything, but both Sally and Gabe they fight a lot. It felt like I was watching my parents on. But Gabe, yeah, he's like, hey, so what happened at school? What did you do? Percy says that the school believes that he pushed the girl, and Gabe's like, doesn't get mad. He's just like, okay, well, as long as you're here, you follow my rules. That's a pretty good response after being expelled for, in Gabe's eyes, physically assaulting someone. That's like best outcome. I would be getting my ass beat if that was if I came home and that was my response. And then also his relationship with Sally is very different as well. says please. He is unhappy with them leaving to Montauk, but Sally bribes him with a sandwich and with making it in time for the game, and he is more than happy to. He's just like, all right. And she stands up to him. There is no sense of fear. It's, don't get me wrong, they're obviously a couple in need of divorce, but from what I am seeing, does not deserve to die. So in terms of book accuracy, I do believe the movie wins on this one. So going into Sally and Percy's relationship, this is our next category. And in the movie, we don't get a lot to observe. She really only comes in at the beginning and then comes in at the end. And they clearly have affection for each other. They both clearly love each other. She's willing to sacrifice herself to stay in the underworld for Percy. And Percy obviously goes through all of this, his whole journey in the movie, to save his mom. And it's apparent that they love each other. But we don't really get a lot to view there. And in the TV show, I think I've made it pretty obvious. I don't like the direction that they're taking Sally in. I don't think it's very book accurate. It makes me feel disconnected from it because the relationship in the books that Sally and Percy had was one of the biggest things I felt connected to. And in the TV show, I don't really get that a lot. She seems very... I don't know how to explain it. There's just something off. She's trying to... I don't know, they're trying to make her like maybe a girl boss or something. I don't really know. The scene where Percy comes home and she's sitting in the rain and listening to Olivia Rodrigo and just feeling the rain fall on her skin. It's weird. And then, like, I don't know, there's something off going on there that makes me feel disconnected. That might be it probably is a personal thing, honestly. But there's definitely a lot more there in terms of relationship. I really, really love the scene where Percy is coming back and he sees his mom and he's immediately trying to explain what happened. He's like, I'm so sorry. It's not what you think. And she doesn't care. She doesn't give a crap. She just hugs him and she's just happy to see him. And that is a really great glimpse of the Sally from the books. We don't really get a lot of that for the rest of the time that she's there, but I really appreciated that scene. I also really appreciate how she stands up to the headmaster too. She's immediately like, well, I believe my kid. I don't believe that he pushed this girl. If he's saying he didn't. Really, really also appreciate that. Again, seems very much like a Sally move. In the books, with the Minotaur and the beach house at Montauk, it makes sense why the Minotaur is able to catch up to them in that way, because Percy does not tell Sally what happened at school. He doesn't want to ruin his time with her, especially after she tells him that she rented out their beach house at Montauk. He is super excited and she doesn't want to pry. She can tell something's off, but she wants him to be able to come out of his shell on his own. So because of this, because that they don't communicate and that there is a kind of ongoing pattern with both of them kind of keeping things from each other, but still loving each other a lot, but sometimes, keeping things from each other, the Minotaur is able to hunt them down. And then, the rest of the scene happens. But in the TV show, we find out that Sally has a pretty extensive knowledge of Greek mythology and of the way demigods work, and also knows Brunner and Grover and knows what happened and has a whole game plan of getting Percy to the camp and breaking the news to Percy that he's a demigod. But if you know all this stuff about demigods and all this stuff about Greek mythology, the more he finds out about himself, the more his scent gets stronger and the target on his back gets larger. You are actively putting your son in danger by revealing all of this on your own. And it also takes away from the importance of the camp scene after Percy comes to, because that was kind of where the exposition was supposed to happen. Instead, we get this massive exposition dump by the mom that once again feels like a very unnatural conversation. But the points for sure in terms of relationship for the mother-son relationship in the series will go to the TV show, hands down. We get to see a lot more of it, and I hope it starts feeling a little more natural in the next couple seasons. The next category is the exposition dumping. Specifically when both the movie and the TV series have a scene where they're trying to explain who the father is. And in terms of book accuracy, for the reasons that I described in the previous category, I'm not going to repeat a lot of the same stuff. In the movie, it's mainly alluded to. She doesn't really get the opportunity to fully explain to Percy that he is the son of Poseidon, the son of a god. So it makes a lot more sense. It makes the whole claiming thing make more sense because they weren't able to get the final scoop on who Percy's dad was before Sally was disappeared. Okay, well, we all know she wasn't killed, but you know. So it's definitely alluded to with the language she uses, and it's a lot more subtle. So Percy's able to discover it a little bit more later, which is why I think the movie scene is more book accurate, whereas in the TV show, it's this really badly done exposition dump. And I'm so glad Percy did not believe her, and he was like, stop. There's something wrong with me, and you encouraging it is not good. I really appreciated that detail. It still didn't make it good, though. I can't confidently say that the scene was better in the TV show. I just think it takes away from the importance of the camp scenes. So for that reason, movie gets the point. And now the final kind of overall category is the Minotaur. And again, it's split up into two categories in a similar way that Dodds was. There's no human form, so it's just the monster and the fight. So the monster, I really appreciate the little detail of making the Minotaur wear underpants. I think that was absolutely hilarious, and it was a really nice, little detail for the fans. I really appreciate that for the TV show, but ultimately there's not really a wrong way to do a Minotaur. They both look pretty similar. There's a couple small differences, but if they had managed to get a Minotaur wrong, I would be concerned. That's one of the most famous Greek monsters in, today's media, besides Medusa and the Hydra. But to get it wrong would be difficult. So it's a draw for them. Definitely the TV show did a very nice touch with the underpants, but I don't think as a plot, as a whole, there's a lot missing if the Minotaur is not wearing underpants. It's just a nice detail for the fans. Of course, it does technically make it more book accurate, but overall design, I think it's a draw. As for the fight in the movie, first of all, there's a problem. The monster, it does not turn into dust. That's a pretty big problem with the monster fights in the movie. The overall fight in the books, the car is actually blasted off of the road by a lightning bolt. Later, we can assume that that was actually Zeus who threw it off the road. But here the car flips because a cow was thrown into the road. And it's also like a weird character dynamic because in both forms of media, Grover does not pass out. In the books, he passes out, and that's actually why the Minotaur is able to catch up to them, because they're trying to drag Grover's body off the property line, and Percy's mom makes a decision to use herself as a distraction so Percy can bring Grover to camp, because she also knows she can't cross the camp's boundaries anyways. So she makes that sacrifice. And Percy, the reason why he goes in to kill the Minotaur is he drops Grover, and the Minotaur is like over Grover, and he's afraid that the Minotaur is going to do to Grover the same thing that he did to his mom. So that's why the fart, the that's why the fart, no, that's why the fight gets initiated. So in the movie, it's like a weird character thing, because earlier we see that Grover is willing to fight. He beats up Gabe and he's like, I'm your protector. But here, you see Percy run into a fight and you don't do anything. You don't try to help at all. It just felt weirdly out of character after such a drastic change in Grover's personality made him this strong, loyal, very charismatic and bold character, very outgoing, and then suddenly he's not going to help fight. It just felt weird. Then of course the Minotaur makes Sally disappear in a cloud of golden dust. That is pretty accurate, but overall it's probably one of the more accurate monster fighting scenes that happens in the movie, but definitely not great. In the TV show, I really, again, have to reiterate how much I appreciate the monsters turning into dust. And we do actually get to see Percy fighting the Minotaur, which is really nice. We haven't really we haven't had the chance to see him show his abilities on the battlefield, so it was nice to actually get the chance to do so. However, once again, here it does make more sense because they have showcased that Grover is much more meek and kind of introverted and not as able to fight. So it does kind of make sense why Grover doesn't really help out. But again, it just makes Grover feel really useless right now. And instead of the delay that made sense in the book because they had to help drag his body over the property line, here there was just a lot of dialogue that delayed them from getting a move on. So it kind of took it away. But ultimately, the TV show was by far more book accurate in terms of the fight. The last category we have is actually our boy Grover. In the movie, definitely not book accurate. They completely changed his character. He is very boisterous and outgoing and loyal and kind of willing to fight. Seems like a coin flip for whatever the writers needed in that moment. But so definitely not accurate, but he was definitely fun. It wasn't book accurate, but I actually did appreciate him in the movies. I think he was probably one of the more enjoyable parts. Don't get me wrong, at some points it was weird, like the Vegas scene. Like, he's a teenager. Why are you, what, he's supposed to be a teenager, so what are you doing? But the TV show, it's awesome. It is, I really love Grover in this TV show. He is so much fun. He is adorable and meek, but he is loyal. He's trying to do the best he can with the situation that's at hand. He has that really nice bit of awkwardness to him while also having fun little quips. Does emphasize conflict resolution, which seems more accurate with a satyr in the first place. And the nervous energy overall is just so well done. And it does remind me a lot of Book Grover, so I really appreciate it. So, of course, there's no doubt about it. TV show wins hands down. Easy. And with that, this is the end of episode 1 of this kind of scene comparison. Percy makes it to camp. He passes out after the fight with the Minotaur. That's where the end of the TV show episode 1 is. So the episode 2 of this series will kind of follow the setup for the episodes in the TV show. Since the movie's all in one go, it's easier to do it by the episode and then just finding out where the movie stops in similarity and then finding out also where the book stops. So So yeah. Right now, our tally is 4 wins for the movie, 5 wins for the TV show, and then 2 draws. So let me know in the comments if you think I made any good points, or if you think I was absolutely wrong and freaking stupid. Did you like the TV show? I know I made a lot of criticisms, but I did truly enjoy watching it through. The first time I was like, why isn't this a one-to-one faithful adaptation? And I rewatched it, enjoyed it more on the second rewatch. But do you think the production will listen to some of the complaints we collectively had, particularly with pacing and a lot of not letting Percy figure things out on his own? I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with Sea Monsters. I'm very excited for the casting. I'm so excited to see Tyson. He's so adorable in the books. I really hope that they like keep that spirit up, you know, with the live action. And I am just overall really excited to hear what you guys think about the TV show and what you guys think about this series, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.